great for The Independent to have Damian Lewis doing a gig in our Music Box studio. We are very grateful. Thank you very much indeed. And just a few questions about music and you. What spurred it in the beginning? You moved from huge success in film, a bit nervous suddenly going into music, a different audience, different people, different things?
Yeah, of course. There's always a fear of imposter syndrome, isn't there? But I at the same time I felt very relaxed, and I think I was just enjoying it so much. I didn't stop to think whether I should or I shouldn't. As long as I was having a nice time doing it, then it sort of validated it. And life is short, and you know, it took a global pandemic for me to sit down and write some songs, Geordie. But you know that was a lot of people's experience of lockdown, wondering what life would be like afterwards. And I had been playing music, and I had been introduced to someone who a few years earlier had said, if you're ever interested, might like to do something together. And I called him during lockdown, and he introduced me to a bunch of musicians. One musician, a guy called Giacomo Smith, who's a wonderful young jazz musician here in London. And he introduced me to a lot of the people you saw today, actually. And we just created a band, and then we had a record, and then we had a record label, and then we went on a UK tour. It's all been slightly accidental.
I always think back, because you were a busker at one stage. Was that a pivotal moment in connecting with an audience, realising the fun of it?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. I mean, I think it's important to say, look, I don't suddenly expect to become, Bruce Springsteen. I haven't given up acting.
We have great hopes.
I haven't given up acting. I love acting, and I'll continue to do it and be in that part of the arts. But they do feel different. The theatre, film and TV industry does feel different from the music industry, and I've had an enormous amount of fun learning about the music industry and playing with musicians who are all so unbelievably talented. As you say, my musical history was just busking as a lad in my 20s. I had a motorbike, I had a tent, I'd go around Europe, I'd play in France and Spain through the summers, and I would just busk with me and my acoustic guitar, shout at people in the street, But I was training as an actor at the same time. You come to a fork in the road, Geordie. You know how it goes. And I knew I wanted to be an actor, and so music sort of, I suppose, remained a hobby rather than something to take more seriously until there was a global pandemic.
But it's a passion, isn't it? I mean, I think of someone like Kazuo Ishiguro, who again plays the guitar, but is better famed as a novelist.
Yes.
Is it something which is? It's beyond a hobby. It's a passion, isn't it?
Well, yes. I mean, I've put too much time into this, and spending time with wonderful, brilliant, talented people to not want to take it seriously, because you suddenly see the potentials. You start peeling the onion. You think this is so exciting, and I've been really enjoying writing songs. I have to say, whenever I had tried to write a song previously, I thought it was doggerel. It's so terrible. I always tore everything up, and then. No, these things come to you, at certain times for a reason, probably, and I just felt comfortable writing songs. Wrote this first record, Mission Creep, and I'm now writing a second record because I've just been enjoying it so much and being in the studio and going on tour.
I mean, listening to Down on the Bowery, it's a great love song.
Yeah,
Can you tell us where that came from and how that got written?
Well, that is. It's a little bit of a fantasy, that song, but it is clearly a night of passion between a man and a woman, and there's a melancholy to it as well. There's a sadness that suffuses the song, and this idea that two people sharing a moment together can bring some happiness. So that's the idea behind it.
But it's very poetic too. You took a taxi to the moon. It feels like it's a truly entwined love song.
Good. Well, I'm glad you like it. It was the first single I released. It wasn't the very first song I wrote, actually, but it was the first single we released because everyone seemed to like it. But songs, the kernel of an idea of a song can be buried quite deeply within a song, and you extrapolate from that first idea, and the song can surprise yourself where it ends up. It sort of disappears off into a different area.
Well, it works very well, because I kept thinking, who is she?
Yes,
You know,
quite.
'cause
Well, that's good. If it asks that question, then
Yeah.
that's good. But you won't get an answer.
No. And going on tour,
Yeah.
you got several dates I see in the diary. Does that make you as the same nervousness of going on stage, or different sort of feeling of engaging with an audience?
I was nervous going on stage first time. We played our first gig altogether was last August, September, a year ago, at O'Meara down in South London, London Bridge. Yeah, I was nervous going on stage, but because I didn't have. There's an opportunity to create a persona. There's an opportunity to be entirely yourself. You are playing an instrument, singing and delivering material that you've written yourself. And so there is a different sort of pressure. But I will say that there is still nothing more terrifying than a press night in the West End or at the National. I haven't, even doing this for the first time was not as terrifying as that. And I think there's something particularly alchemical as an actor about sublimating yourself entirely to a different reality, going down the rabbit hole into an entirely parallel universe and existing there as somebody else, which is so removed from yourself, and it's whilst at the same time having to remain present and in the moment and aware that you're in a theatre and acting with your fellow actors. So it's a different sort of thing. And I think probably just knowing that you've got 3 hours ahead of you of text that you've got to remember. At any moment you might just forget. And of course, actors are all incredibly generous and incredibly helpful. We all help each other out. When you see that moment of fear in a fellow actor's eyes, you think, oh my, they haven't got a clue what to say next. We better all jump in and help them out. But with a band, if I go slightly wrong with a chord or even one of my own lyrics, the band is there holding you and it continues. And you can so the train is going down the track and you can jump back on it. You feel very held.
And big difference. Actors generally given words, sometimes by the greatest writers ever.
Yeah, lovely.
You create your own
Great
words,
privilege.
which is such a different and unusual thing, to think everything rests on you. Delivery, evocation of mood, tone, words coming together, harmony,
yeah, that's right.
Lyrics.
That's right. So as I said, there's a different kind of pressure. You can be gutted head to toe for many different reasons, whereas for all the reasons you just said, critically. So there is a greater pressure, I suppose, because there's greater ownership. But having acted for a long time, I also know, that when a critic sharpens his or her quill and dips the ink, even though they might only be attacking you for your performance, it can be as personal or as a detailed evisceration as anything else. Of course, though, there are other people taking responsibility: the writer, the director, the producers, whatever it happens to be. But you're never safe. You want to perform. You want to do something creative, artistic. You want to offer it to the world. You are sticking your head above the parapet, and you are saying, you can like it or you can take a shot. And in that moment, you better be clear about why you're doing it.
And with many artists, when they're interviewed, they'll say everything's in the work. How intimate and revealing in Mission Creep, in the songs you've chosen, do we get to the inner parts of Damian Lewis?
Well, a lot of people will know that I lost my wife, Helen, beautiful gorgeous Helen McCrory, who's
Incredible, yeah.
an incredible actress and adored and admired. You know, and I wrote around the time of her illness, so there are definitely 2 or 3 songs in the album which are suffused with Helen, with the memory of Helen, with the idea of death and grief, because you know, songs, albums, they're a bit like journal entries. They reflect the time that you're writing them in, and so it would have been odd if there had been nothing in there that reflected that time of my life. But having said that, you know, this is categorically not a sad album or an album about grief. It's I think there's a lot of fun, sort of uplifting tunes in it, which is what I wanted. I wanted you know, a mixture, a nice sort of variety of different types of music, musicality, a different tone running through it all. And people have been kind enough to say that they think that's there. So that's important to me.
Well, Damian, we felt the beat, we felt the heart, we felt the soul, we felt the passion, and we tapped our toes throughout your session here. And just thank you very, very much indeed for coming into the Independence Music Box. We are delighted to have you.
We loved being here. Thanks for inviting us.
Thanks very much.
All right, take care.